This is your review for compositions for your test for tomorrow. Alright, question 1. Find the inverse of the following. Step 1 is with inverses always switch x and y, so I've got x equals 2y minus 1 over 2. And now I'm going to go in backwards order of PEMDAS to ultimately solve for y. So step 1 is going to be to multiply by 2 on both sides. 2's cancel. Now I've got 2x equals 2y minus 1. So next thing there would be to add 1 to both sides. Okay, so that'll cancel that. And now, right at what we got here, we've got 2x minus 1, I'm sorry, plus 1 equals 2y. And then the last step there is to divide the whole thing by 2. And so then my answer officially is f inverse of x equals all that mess, which is what, 2x plus 1 over 2. Alright, now next one, to cancel a fraction. Y'all have been struggling with this a lot, doing all sorts of weird things. Here's the bottom line. Multiply by the reciprocal. So take 1 over 3 and flip that, multiply both sides by 3 over 1. Of course, step 1 is you've got to swap your x and your y. So you've got x equals 1/3 y minus 5. So now we multiply by that reciprocal. So I multiply both sides times 3 over 1, which is just multiplying by 3, really. Okay, so I've got 3x equals y minus 5. So add 5 to both sides, and now I've got 3x plus 5 equals y. Well, that was my answer then, so I mean, yeah, that's it. You could just say f inverse of x equals that. Once again, we've got a fraction here. It'll be solved the same way. So I've got swap your x and your y's. You've got x equals 4/7 y minus 2. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add the 2. So now I've got x plus 2 equals 4/7 y. I'm going to multiply both sides times the reciprocal, which is 7 over 4. So times 7 over 4. And make sure you put parentheses around the whole thing here, around the whole x plus 2. So it would be times 7 over 4. And then that's going to be my answer there, because everything else is canceled around the y. So my answer is this right here, 7/4 times x plus 2. Next slide. Find f inverse of x for the following. So real simple here. We're just going to it's the exact same steps. X equals y plus 2 squared minus 3. So add the 3. X plus 3 equals y plus 2 squared. Now here, to cancel a square, the opposite is square root. So I've got square root of this side, square root of the entire side over here. Well, these things cancel, and now I've got the square root of x plus 3 equals y plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides and you got your answer. So the answer then is square root of x plus 3. And then the minus 2, it needs to be outside of the square root sign after it. It should not be underneath the square root sign. And that's my answer, so I'll just write it with the f inverse of x. Okay, so yeah, there you go. And one thing you might notice with this kind of question is ultimately, like, I'm changing it from being either a squared to a square root, or I'm changing it from a square root to being a squared. And really, I'm swapping these two numbers where they're located, like this one will be outside and this one will be inside now. And then also their signs are swapping as well. So, I mean, if you want to jump straight to the answer on something, well, actually, just look at what we just did here. I changed it to square root. The -3 changed to a +3 on the inside. The +2 changed to a -2 on the outside. You could apply that same idea here. This answer is f inverse of x equals, it'll become squared, and it'll be x plus 7 inside the squared, and it'll be -5 outside of it. Solve by factoring. This is your M&A method. Multiply and the add numbers. My multiply number is 2 times -3, which is -6. My add number is -7. Two numbers that multiply to -6 and add to -7. Well, what multiplies to 6? You've got 1 and 6, and you've got 2 and 3. Now, hold on a second. In order to multiply to -6, one of these would have to be negative, but that wouldn't add to -7. You know, I think this might be a goof of a problem. I don't think this problem is going to get solved by factoring. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to a +3, and now it'll be doable. So now my multiply number is +6, and in order to make it add to -7, then both of these numbers will have to be negative. So, because now -1 times -6 is +6, -1 plus -6 is -7, so that works. I write it out as x minus 1 and x minus 6. I promise it works out correctly on the test. And so now we're not done. I have to divide by my leading coefficient and do the bottoms up thing. So divide by 2, and the 2 is going to come up in front of this x. So I'm going to have 2x minus 1, and then 6 divided by 2 is 3, so just x minus 3. Now I haven't solved it yet. Remember, this is just the factored form. If I want to say what the solution is, it's just these opposite signs, basically. So like from this, that's x equals +3, and from the first factor here, it would really just look back here. It's +1/2. X equals +1/2. There were quite a few of you on the last test that all you did was factor it, and you factored it correctly, but didn't answer the question, so you didn't get credit for it. If you don't write answers like this, like x equals whatever, it will be wrong. Just letting you know. I know this one factors correctly, number 7. Multiply number is -15. The add number is 2, and the numbers that multiply to 15 would be 5 and 3, and the one of those that would have to be negative would have to be 3, so that it adds to +2. So your numbers are 5 and -3. They multiply and add to those. I'm going to write that as x plus 5 and x minus 3. Remember, you'd have to do bottoms up, but there's no leading coefficient, so that problem's done. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't solve it. So the answers then are x equals -5, because it's the opposite sign, and x equals +3. Solve using the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula will not be on your test, so make sure that you remember your quadratic formula, which is x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, plugging those numbers in, I get x equals -1. Please do not mess up on a double negative issue. Square root of -1 squared minus 4 times negative 2. Another thing people screw up on is forgetting to put negatives inside of these numbers. Alright, all over 2 times negative 2. Simplifying, I get 1 plus or minus square root of, see that's 1, and it would be minus 8. 1 minus 8. And this is going to be minus because I have 1, 2, 3 negative signs, and 3 negative signs do mean it's still negative, and 4 times 2 is 8. So yeah, that's right. And then all over negative 4. Well, 1 minus 8 is negative 7. So I've got 1 plus or minus square root of negative 7 all over negative 4. Since the square root of negative 7, that's negative, it can't be solved or square rooted. I am going to take out the I, though. I'm going to take out the negative sign and make it an I. So 1 plus or minus I times root 7 all over negative 4. If it is imaginary, I do expect you to pull out the negative sign and make it an I. That is required. So that is the answer right there. Mr. Lumen replaced a square window with a rectangular one. The new window is 3 feet wider and 2 feet higher than the square one. It has an area of 30 square feet. How long was a side of the original square window? So if you think about a little picture here, here's a square window, and then we are extending it to be 3 feet wider and 2 feet higher than the original. So then if my unknown side is x, that's the side of my square window, then I'm adding 3 right here, and I'm adding 2 right here. So then that's going to look like x plus 3 is one side, and x plus 2 is another side, and it's equal to my new area of 30. Well, I'm going to need to FOIL this, and then I'm going to need to solve it. I've got x squared. Whoa, what just happened? Okay, there we go. I've got x squared. I'd have, let's see, plus 2x plus 3x makes plus 5x. I'm simplifying already here. And 3 times 2 is 6. Okay. If you lost what just happened there, x times 2 is 2x. 3 times x is 3x. Those make 5x. And this equals 30. Subtract the 30 from both sides, and I've got x squared plus 5x. 6 minus 30 is negative 24 equals 30. I'm sorry, equals 0. I'm going to solve this one by factoring. The multiply number is negative 24. The add number is 5. 8 and 3 multiply to 24. To make it add to 5, though, I'm going to make it a negative 3, and then that balances all out there. So I've got x plus 8 and x minus 3 equals 0. My solutions from that are x equals negative 8 and x equals positive 3. So which one of these is the answer? Obviously not the negative one, because you can't have a negative side length to a square, so 3 is the answer. 3 feet was the length of the original window. One more question. Find the inverse of the given function using the tables in the graph below. So I'm just going to plug in numbers for x and y here and get my answer. If I plug in, I'm going to start with the vertex. Well, whatever, I'll just do this one. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. Plugging in negative 4, I would have negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Plugging in negative 3, I would get 0 squared minus 4 is negative 4. By the way, this is the vertex right here, negative 3, negative 4, so I know that these two numbers are going to be the same down here. And then when I swap that, that's going to be 0, negative 3, negative 4, negative 3, 0, and then all my x's and all my y's. Now, I knew this was a -3 and this was a 0 because I knew this was the vertex. If you don't know that, then you need to calculate it. Don't ever assume anything. So now we're going to graph both of these here. I'm going to graph all my points. I've got. I'm going to start with my vertex. My original was -3, -4. And then these were the rest of the points. So this is my original. Whee! Whee! And then my next one, take a different color here, and this one is at, its vertex is at -4, -3. And then it will look like this. So all I'm doing is graphing those ordered pairs. You would do the exact same thing. Alright, but this is exactly what I'd expect to see on the test. I want to see both of them. You don't have to use different colors or different drawing. I just need to see both. Please go back and watch any part of this that you didn't really understand, and watch step by step what I'm doing to make sure you really get it, because if you get how it's done here, you should get how it is on the test. Good luck.